Do you remember the times of COVID lockdown? 2020, pin drop silence, nobody stepping out, emergency situation, limited supply, and we did not know what is coming next. And this is exactly what our Prime Minister has warned, that if Iran war is not concluded, we are looking back at times like what we had seen back in 2020. And that is why it gets extremely worrisome for India. Hello everyone, welcome to Vajiram and Ravi's Flash News. My name is Shubhangi Singh and today we are going to understand that what is at stake for India. The risk, the opportunities, the gains, if there are any, and what are the things that India should consider, understand, given that the Iran-Israel-US conflict is not dialing down no matter what parties are saying. So when we are looking at this very situation, the first thing we get to see, the escalation which began only between Israel, US and Iran has easily gone and exploded and engulfed many other countries. At one point, it was more than 11. And when we are looking at this present situation and when we are looking at the whole West Asian region, this is the place which is war-laden. It is not just 3 countries across the globe. And that is why this region, which is responsible for a huge amount of global oil production, which is responsible for important maritime routes, seems disrupted. Seems that it will never get back to normal. And that is why we have to get into consideration for our country, because we might understand we are not participant of the war, but the consequences are going to be such that it will feel like that we are. Our external shock is going to affect our economy. The external shock is going to impact our economy. It is going to impact diplomacy and also internal stability. So a lot of things are at stake, a lot of things are on the table, and the consideration, the understanding is very much required in this place. So let us try to understand first of all that what are the core stakes, especially for India, in this kind of external geopolitical shock that we are seeing. So when we are talking about geopolitical shock, the first direct impact that would be in front of us would be on energy security. This region is responsible for energy supply to India, be it in terms of crude oil, be it in terms of LNG, because India is 100% import dependent in LNG, and also natural gas, CNG is imported, and also natural gas here we have. So when we are talking about this energy supply through this particular region, add to that we have Strait of Hormuz, which is blocked, where Iran wants permissions and tolls. Even though India got permission for 2 vessels to pass, it is not going to solve our problem for the long term, because this war is not going to be short term, it seems like that. So we are vulnerable here not just in terms of the supply, we are here vulnerable in terms of price shock as well, where the crude oil has already crossed the price of $100 per barrel. Apart from that, please don't forget, when we are talking about energy security, we are not just concerned about supply and price shock, we are also concerned about connectivity. So connectivity we can place in other dimensions as well. So when we are talking about connectivity, you have to think about Chabar port, you have to think about INSTC corridor. All these are at stake. Now, when we have covered the energy security angle, let us move towards another very important angle, is the economic angle. Because when we are talking about supply plus price shock, this will lead to higher import bill. Once our import bill is higher and combine it with rupee which is depreciating, this will lead to widening of current account deficit. This will further fuel the rupee depreciation, and this will also bring in imported inflation. Because it is not just about crude oil, it is also about fertilizers, it is also about other things which we are exporting from that particular region, or we use crude oil or LNG for manufacturing. So in this context, the cost push inflation will also come into the picture. Now what will this cause? This will affect the growth. That means the growth will slow down. And there is a possibility of macroeconomic instability as well. So we have a lot going on at the economic end as well, which is at stake. Apart from that, let us move to another important scenario. Because this is something that is not just an external shock, it is going to have internal effects as well. Because when we are talking about diaspora, especially in the West Asian region, we have more than 9 million people whose lives are at risk. We have to ensure their safety, and in the situation where it worsens, we have to ensure their evacuation as well. We do have multiple factors which have caused social unrest in our country because of the ongoing Iran war. And furthermore, we have $100 billion worth of remittances at stake. If they are not coming in, we have very important policy decisions to make in this regard as well. And then let us go to the last factor that we are going to talk in terms of things are at stake, is where to situate India. Because Iran is important for energy connectivity, Israel is important for defense and tech, USA is important for strategic partnership, and Gulf in whole as a region is important for energy, diaspora, technology and others. Because when we are talking about Gulf countries, India has parallel separate relationship running. But if this war continues along, we would have to make choices. Neutrality would be a huge challenge, and there will be an extreme pressure to align with one of the parties of this war as well. So when we talked about in the starting, when I was talking about how an external shock not just impacts the economy, there are multiple other factors that are going to be affected, such as energy, economy, diplomacy and internal stability. This is what I meant. This is the things that are at stake. At large, it might seem that this is going on too far away, but when you look at all these factors, this is what is going on today in your country, in your house, and it is going to affect you. So in this context, when we are talking about what is India set to gain and lose from this war, when we look at the loss side, it seems higher. Because we have energy and fiscal risks, we have maritime security risks, we also have external sector stress, we have diaspora and human security risk and geopolitical constraints also that we have discussed already. But at the same time, when we are looking at what India sets to gain from this, are there any upside, any silver lining of this at all? So we do have certain things that we can consider here. Because this is the time that actually India should consider for strategic autonomy consolidation. We have been talking about strategic autonomy for a very long time, but to be able to deliver in real time has been very difficult. So this is a time we can reinforce independent foreign policy, we can avoid bloc politics and make resources in order to ensure that yes, we are a holder of our own strategic autonomy. This is the time that we need to push and go all out for energy diversification. This is the time we can use our allies such as Russia, we can use our resources to move towards fast-tracked renewable energy development at this very time, fast-tracked development of strategic petroleum reserves. And we can also look into better leverage that we can have diplomatically in terms of diaspora, because India is still a neutral actor, India can be a potential mediator, and if India comes out as a mediator, India gains a lot of global credibility. So there are multiple things that India might gain, but India would have to work a lot for the same time. So as of now, risks are higher, the losses seems immense, but at the same time, just when we were saying the difficult times of COVID, we were focusing on the opportunities that were coming along. So these are the opportunities that are present for India. But at the same time, India would have to make sure that in short term, it is focusing on crisis management. That means they are diversifying oil sources, because production at once is not possible. Using their strategic reserves and evacuating diaspora. In the medium term, they can work on other factors such as maritime security, resilient supply chains, and energy agreements which will last long. And in the long term, they would have to focus on structural reform. The final leg has to ensure that if at all there is an external shock just like this, India is not in the same situation that we are today. Now that was all from my side. I'll be leaving you here with a prelims practice question. Put down the answer in the comment section. That was all. Thank you so much.